Hello everybody! I don't have the perfect setup here at the moment, and of course the moment that I turn my ISO off is the moment that the light disappears again. But I'm going to be reacting to the Booker Prize. I'm going to be reacting to the Booker Prize Longlist, which has been announced like 34 minutes ago or something like that. Now, I have to immediately indicate I'm a newbie when it comes to this. Not really a newbie, like I followed the prize for a few years. I've even read the entire long list one year, but I don't really follow up with literary fiction as well as I do with fantasy, for example. I don't read a ton of literary fiction anymore. A few years back, I think most of my reading was literary fiction, and now it's definitely shifted back into fantasy. So I have not been following the new releases. I have kind of been watching a few people who have been making speculations about the new long list, but in all likelihood I will have read none of these books. I won't know much about these books, so this is really discovering the Booker Prize at a basic level. So if you are a Booker intellectual, you know everything about the prize, and this video probably isn't all that interesting to you. I'm going to be going through what is nominated, what it is about, and whether I am interested in reading it, because this year I do want to do another sort of like reading the Booker type of project, but I'm going to be selective this time around. I'm not going to read the entire long list. I also don't have time for that. We have more time apparently this year to read the books than we did in previous years. We have almost 2 months to read the long list, for example, but I still don't think, like in the month of August, I have almost no spare room to put anything else in. We are going to try to fit something in, but in any case, it's going to be a little bit of a puzzle to get that done. So don't actually expect to be able to get to a whole ton of this. I'm hoping just to be able to get through a few of these and then hopefully get more time for it in October to then do the shortlist. Alright, so the Booker Prize, I think I need to refresh it, right? Because this was before it was actually live. So let's refresh it and see what ends up on that list. Yeah, take your sweet time, but why are you not just giving me the results? Is this because too many people are going on that website or what? Like, come on. We have a visitor. Aha. So, it would be great fate if you could get out of my shop at some point, but Booker Prize 2023. Based off of that visual, I already see like one book at least that I know a lot of people were saying was going to make it on there, and it actually also sounded really interesting, so I'm happy that that one made it on there. But let's see, the long list has been announced. So we have work from 4 continents, 4 Irish writers. I will already tell you that me and Irish literature do not get along, so that'll be interesting. 4 debut novelists and 10 authors who were recognized by the Booker Prize for the first time. So it doesn't say the total, but usually it's 13. So 10 out of the 13 are first time nominees. Nice. So let's see, I don't need to blah blah blah. So just for the formalities, I guess. So this long list does include 13 books. It was announced today, and it has a short list. The shortlist of 6 books will come on September 21. So a month and like 21 days to get these, to read some of these. And then the announcement of the final winner is on November 26th, which is a long period, because I feel like normally we don't get that long for the shortlist. So we get 2 months, 2 full months, and actually a few days extra to read the shortlist. So that's going to be very nice. That means you have more weeks than amount of books to get through. So that should be possible, I guess. So I like these sort of like stats that they have about it. So it says the 13 longlisted books explore universal topics and themes, from deeply moving personal dramas to tragicomic family sagas. Love of myself a family saga. From the effects of climate change to the oppression of minorities, from scientific breakthroughs to competitive sports. The list includes 10 writers longlisted for the first time, including 4 debut novelists, 3 writers with 7 previous nominations between them, nice. Writers from 7 countries across 4 continents. Since the prize is only for books that are originally written in English, I think that amount of countries is still very much a wide selection. 4 Irish writers making up a third of the longlist for the first time. A novel featuring a newer, diverse protagonist written from personal experience, and all 13 novels cast new lights on what it means to exist in our time, and they do so in original and thrilling ways. So let's go for it, the long list. So first up we have The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. Paul Murray, I feel like I already know this guy's name. Like I've already is it something like to do with Skippy? Skippy Dies or something? Is that a book by Paul Murray? Not that I've read it, but for some reason I associate this guy's name with this title. And yeah, the Booker website is clearly like over demanded because this is all taking a humongous time, but luckily I can edit that out for you guys. Alright, so longlisted for the Booker 2023. A patch of ice on the road, a casual favor to a charming stranger, a bee caught beneath a bridal veil. Can a single moment of bad luck change the direction of a life? Dickie's once lucrative car business is going under, but rather than face the music, he's spending his days in the woods, building an apocalypse-proof bunker. His exasperated wife, Imelda, is selling off her jewelry on eBay while half-heartedly dodging the attentions of fast-talking cattle farmer Big Mike. Meanwhile, teenage daughter Cass, formerly top of her class, seems determined to binge drink her way to her final exams. And 12-year-old PJ, in debt to local sociopath Ears Moran, is putting the final touches to his grand plan to run away. Yes, in Paul Murray's brilliant tragicomic saga, the Barnes family is definitely in trouble. So where did it all go wrong? And if the story has already been written, is there still time to find a happy ending? It doesn't really tell me all that much, of course, except for the fact that it's gonna look into like a family on a downfall, and potentially this also has some of those climate change themes because he's building like an apocalypse-proof bunker. This one I will put on the no pile for the time being. It doesn't really call out to me. It says tragicomic saga, but I don't know. It doesn't really call out to me, so it's not really a priority for me. Chetna Maru's Western Lane. Never heard this one. Didn't see that one pass by on people's prediction videos neither. But now I'm really like dark. I hope at least it's like moody dark. Longlisted for the Booker Prize 2023. Chetna Maru's tender and moving debut novel about grief, sisterhood, a teenage girl's struggle to transcend herself, and squash. 11-year-old Gopi has been playing squash since she was old enough to hold a racket. When her mother dies, her father enlists her in a quietly brutal training regimen, and the game becomes her world. Slowly, she grows apart from her sisters. Her life is reduced to the sport, guided by its rhythms, the serve, the volley, the drive, the shot, and its echo. But on the court, she is not alone. She is with her pa. She is with Getz, a 13-year-old boy with his own formidable talents. She is with the players who have come before her. She is in awe. Alright, so a sports novel, but a novel about sisterhood as well. I gotta say, when I read that about squash, I actually thought they meant the vegetable. But yeah, this one, I mean, I feel like I'm not intrigued enough to be like fully like I want to read this, but I also don't have any reason not to want to read it. So can I abstain from this one for the time being until we get a little bit further into this video? And I'm gonna change that ISO because I'm just sitting in the dark here. Move the ISO up a bit, hopefully not too many sunshine coming. In Ascension by Martin McInnes. This is a book that I've definitely seen people talk about in the past few months maybe, or like very recently in any case. I've actually spotted it in bookstores as well and have been, of course, and have been tempted to pick it up, but yeah. I mean, I haven't done so because I didn't really remember anything about it, and I'm trying to keep my TBR as small as possible, so I wasn't really going for it, but it definitely has a beautiful cover to begin with. Exploring the natural world with wonder and reverence, this compassionate, deeply inquisitive epic reaches outward to confront the great questions of existence while looking inward to illuminate the human heart. Lee grew up in Rotterdam, drawn to the waterfront as an escape from her unhappy home life. Enchanted by the undersea world of her childhood, she excels in marine biology, traveling the globe to study ancient organisms. When a trench is discovered in the Atlantic Ocean, Lee Lead joins the exploration team, hoping to find evidence of Earth's first life forms. What she instead finds calls into question everything we know about our beginnings and leaves her facing an impossible choice: to remain with her family or to embark on a journey across the breadth of the cosmos. Reading that, that sounds right up my alley. You know, I love that whole sort of like wanderlust theme in there, and that sort of exploration of science and Earth's history. So yeah, this one is definitely one that I want to get and try out. See, I feel like I like this setup, but then you have that issue all the time. So I'm not entirely sure that I should stick to filming here because yeah, this is just not, it's just not doing it for me, you know. Next up we have Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. So a mother faces a terrible choice in Paul Lynch's exhilarating, propulsive and confrontational portrait of a society on the brink. Okay. On a dark, wet evening in Dublin, so this is clearly one of the Irish books, scientist and mother of four, Eilish Stack, answers her front door to find the GNSB on her doorstep. Two officers from Ireland's newly formed secret police want to speak with her husband. Things are falling apart. Ireland is in the grip of a government that is taking a turn towards tyranny, and as the blood-dimmed tide is loosed, Eilish finds herself caught within the nightmare logic of a collapsing society, assailed by unpredictable forces beyond her control and forced to do whatever it takes to keep her family together. So this once again doesn't really tell you all that much, except for that it's going to take place in like the Troubles in Ireland, which, as I said, I'm not really one that gets along very well with Irish literature, so I'm going to give this one a pass. Yeah, I accidentally pushed on this one, so I guess we're going to look at this one first. So this is Pearl by Sean Hughes. I'm not entirely sure of that pronunciation. Sean Hughes contemplates both the power and the fragility of the human mind in her haunting debut novel, which was inspired by the medieval poem of the same name. Okay. Marianne is 8 years old when her mother goes missing. Left behind with her baby brother and grieving father in a ramshackle house on the edge of a small village, she clings to the fragmented memories of her mother's love, the smell of fresh herbs, the games they played, and the songs and stories of her childhood. As time passes, Marianne struggles to adjust, fixated on her mother's disappearance and the secret she's sure her father is keeping from her. Discovering a medieval poem called Pearl, and trusting in its promise of consolation, Marianne sets out to make a visual illustration of it, a task that she returns to over and over but somehow never manages to complete. Tormented by an unmarked gravestone in an abandoned chapel and the tidal pull of the river, her childhood home begins to crumble as the past leads her down a path of self-destruction. But can art heal Marianne, and will her own future as a mother help her find peace? I don't know. It has intriguing elements to it. I like that sort of idea of art and the healing power of art. I'm intrigued by that whole sort of like situation of the mother having gone missing and like the secrets that it's alluding to. So a little bit on the fence about this one. For the time being, I will say no. I'm hoping for some that interest me more. All the Little Bird Hearts by Victoria Lloyd Barlow. Victoria Lloyd Barlow's lyrical and poignant, that's not how you pronounce that, but I can't, my mouth will make the sound, poignant, debut novel offers a deft exploration of motherhood, vulnerability and the complexity of human relationships. Quite a few about motherhood, right? This is the third one where motherhood plays a role. Sunday Forrester does things more carefully than most people. On quiet days, she must eat only white foods, okay? Her etiquette handbook guides her through confusing social situations, and to escape, she turns to her treasury of Sicilian folklore. The one thing very much out of her control is Dolly, her clever, headstrong daughter, now on the cusp of leaving home. So this is probably the book told from the neurodivergent perspective, right? Into this carefully ordered world step Vita and Royo, a charming couple who move in next door and proceed to deliciously break just about every rule in Sunday's book. Soon they are in and out of each other's home, and Sunday feels loved and accepted as never before. But beneath Vita and Royo's polish lies something else, something darker. For Sunday has precisely what Vita has always wanted for herself, a daughter of her own. Wait, what? Interesting. This intrigues. Like, the fact that it takes place in Italy is first of all something that immediately draws the attention. The fact that it's told from a neurodivergent perspective makes me very interested in this one. And then it's just weird, that end. Like, what does it mean? A daughter of her own, meaning that her daughter Dolly is not her own child, is an adopted child or what? So yeah, this one can go on the yes pile. So all the little bird hearts. So far I've put Western Lane I abstained from for the time being, right? In Ascension and All the Little Bird Hearts are on the yes pile. Paul Harding, This Other Eden. I've seen this cover, definitely. This is a new release, right? So This Other Eden by Paul Harding. Full of lyricism and power, Paul Harding's spellbinding novel celebrates the hopes, dreams and the resilience of those deemed not to fit in a world brutally intolerant of others. Already that's... Please, Fate, you have enough hair down there, luckily. Get out of my shot. Or set yourself fully in it, also fine. That's like vague description already interests me. Inspired by historical events, This Other Eden tells the story of Apple Island, an enclave off the coast of the United States where castaways in flight from society and its judgment have landed and built a home. In 1792, formerly enslaved Benjamin Honey arrives on the island with his Irish wife Patience to make a life together there. More than a century later, the Honey's descendants remain alongside an eccentric, diverse band of neighbors. Then comes the intrusion of civilization. Officials determined to cleanse the island. As a missionary schoolteacher selects one light-skinned boy to save, the rest will succumb to the authorities' institutions or cast themselves on the water in a new Noah's Ark. Yeah, definitely. This one sounds so good. Like, immediately give me like the beach vibes, with this sort of idea of a society that like finds a sort of deserted island to like escape civilization. But then you have that interesting take of like civilization or the authorities kind of stepping in, and then the fate of these other people. So yeah, this one can go on the yes pile. So 3 yes piles so far out of the 7 that I've looked at. How to Build a Boat by Elaine Feeney. Not my coffee. So, How to Build a Boat. With tenderness and verve, Elaine Feeney tells the story of how one boy on a unique mission transforms the lives of his teachers and brings together a community. Jamie O'Neill loves the color red. He also loves tall trees, patterns, rain that comes with wind, the curvature of many objects, books with dust jackets, cats, rivers, and Edgar Allan Poe. At the age of 13, there are 2 things he especially wants in life: to build a perpetual motion machine and to connect with his mother Noelle, who died when he was born. In his mind, these things are intimately linked, and at his new school, where all else is disorienting and overwhelming, he finds 2 people who might just be able to help him. But see, this is the problem. This is like so vague. All we know is that it's gonna look at like the difficult time period of changing schools, right? But like, what? So yeah, I cannot put this on the yes pile because there's not enough there to interest me. If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffery. An exhilarating collection of linked stories. Okay, short story collection. That can be a yes or a no. I like linked short stories. That definitely I enjoy. And so that's, for example, what I really enjoyed as well about Girl, Woman, Other. So there is definitely potential, but it can go very wrong. An exhilarating collection of linked stories that pulse with style, heart, and barbed humor as they unravel what it means to carve out an existence between cultures, homes, and paychecks. In 1979, as political violence consumes their native Kingston, Topper and Sanya flee to Miami, but they soon learn that the welcome in America will be far from warm. Trelawney, their youngest son, comes of age in a society that regards him with suspicion and confusion. Their eldest son, longing for a better future for his own children is equaled only by his recklessness in trying to secure it. As both brothers navigate the obstacles littered in their path, an unreliable father, racism, a financial crisis, and Hurricane Andrew, they find themselves pitted against one another. Will their rivalry be the thing that finally tears their family apart? Like, it looks like a coherent story, which is very interesting considering it is a short story collection. So that interests me. That's the main thing that interests me about this. I think like this is a type of story that sure, if I hear many great things about it or something, like I would explore. But like just off of the top of my head in a list like this, do I want to like place my gamble on it? No, it's definitely not a priority for me. Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein. Very interesting cover. Kind of reminds you of like the cover for The Goldfinch. And why are you... In her accomplished and unsettling second novel, Sarah Bernstein explores themes of prejudice, abuse, and guilt through the eyes of a singularly unreliable narrator. Okay? A woman moves from the place of her birth to a remote northern country to be housekeeper to her brother, whose wife has just left him. Soon after she arrives, a series of unfortunate events occurs. I can only think now of a series of unfortunate events. Collective bovine hysteria, the death of a ewe and her nearly born lamb, a local dog's phantom pregnancy, a potato blight. She notices that the community's suspicion about incomers in general seems to be directed, particularly in her case. She feels their hostility growing, pressing at the edges of her brother's property. Inside the house, although she tends to her brother and his home with the utmost care and attention, he too begins to fall ill. Interesting. I don't know, it's like, is this going to be my sort of like wild card? I'm on the fence about this. I'll keep it for the time being. Old Goat's Time by Sebastian Barry. Sebastian Barry, I think, has also been on here already before, right? And I have been interested in his book at that point in time, but didn't get to it. In his beautiful, haunting novel, in which nothing is quite what it seems, Sebastian Barry explores what we live through, what we live with, and what may survive of us. Recently retired policeman Tom Kelly is settling into the quiet of his new home, a lean-to annexed to a Victorian castle overlooking the Irish Sea. For months he has barely seen a soul, catching only glimpses of his eccentric landlord and a nervous young mother who has moved in next door. Occasionally fond memories of the past return, of his family, his beloved wife June, and their 2 children. But when 2 former colleagues turn up at his door with questions about a decades-old case, one which Tom never quite came to terms with, he finds himself pulled into the darkest currents of his past. What does that mean? What does that tell us? No, I don't think so. And then the final one, which is a sad one, because there is definitely at least like one book that I wanted to read, that I will definitely read, just outside of this prize then, but that didn't make it. A Spell of Good Things by, okay, I'm gonna butcher that, I guess, Ayobami Adebayo. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to say that's completely different. A dazzling story of modern Nigeria and 2 families caught in the riptides of wealth, power, romantic obsession, and political corruption. So this breathtaking novel shines a light on the haves and have-nots of Nigeria and the shared humanity that lives in between. Eniola is tall for his age, a boy who looks like a man. His father has lost his job, so Eniola spends his day running errands, collecting newspapers and begging, dreaming of a big future. Wuraola is a golden girl, the perfect child of a wealthy family, and now an exhausted young doctor in her first years of practice. But when sudden violence shatters a family party, Wuraola and Eniola's life become intricately intertwined. Alright, kind of reminds me of what is it called? Cannot come up with the title. I have it in my bookshelves over there. Another book that was longlisted a few years back, the year that I read all of the novels in the list. That one was one of my favorites from that year, and it also had a sort of like relationship between a poor kid from Nigeria and then a wealthy woman from Nigeria. And I really ended up loving that one. And I've been meaning to pick up more Nigerian novels, so in that aspect it interests me. But it's not like the plot tells me enough to be like, oh, I definitely want to read this one now. So that's the issue I have with a lot of this, it seems, that I feel like I don't have enough info to be able to determine. But are these the 13? Because there should be an extra one, like 2, 4, 6, whoops, no, I didn't want to click on it, 8, 10, 12. Yeah, we're missing one. And what we are missing actually is the one book that I knew people had put on there, which is The House of Doors by Tan Twang Ang, which, does it say it here? No, they forgot to put it in there. Alright, let's see if I refresh this, whether I can then get, if they've realized their mistake in the meantime. Did they put it in there now? And The House of Doors, now they put it in there. So, The House of Doors by Tan Twang Ang. I think Tan Twang Ang was previously longlisted, and this is like his first book since then. I do actually have that book on my Kindle. It's been on there for years, I've been meaning to read it. So, and this is actually a book that I was excited about. Based on real events, Booker Prize shortlisted Tan Twang Ang's masterful novel of public morality and private truth examines love and betrayal under the shadow of empire. It's 1921, and at Cassowary House in the Strait settlement of Penang, Robert Hamlin is a well-to-do lawyer, his steely wife Leslie a society hostess. Their lives are invigorated when Willie, an old friend of Robert's, comes to stay. Willie Somerset Maugham is one of the greatest writers of his day, but he is beleaguered by an unhappy marriage, ill health, and business interests that have gone badly awry. He is also struggling to write. The more Leslie's friendship with Willie grows, the more clearly she sees him as he is, a man who has no choice but to mask his true self. As Willie prepares to face his demons, Leslie confides secrets of her own, including her connection to the case of an English woman charged with murder in the Kuala Lumpur courts, a tragedy drawn from fact and worthy of fiction. So, that one does sound interesting. We're looking at a well-known author. I've never read any William Somerset Maugham, but I think that is always interesting, set in Kuala Lumpur with that sort of like drama in the background that is going to unfold. So yeah, I've been meaning to read Tan Twang Ang, his other novel, so I will give this one a go because yeah, I think that one sounds very interesting. So that means that I've given 5 books, I think, right, the go-ahead. So The House of Doors, I will definitely want to read. In Ascension, I definitely want to read. All the Little Bird Hearts, This Other Eden, and then, was there one other one? I think the Study for the Obedience is the one that I kind of parked, right, that I didn't really know what to do with. But I'll put that one in. So 5 out of the 13 that interest me enough at this point in time. Western Lane was the one that I also parked. And I guess we can add that one, right? 6 out of 13, more or less the midway point. That would be interesting to see if I can get those 6 done before the shortlist is announced. And then if the shortlist is announced, I'll probably will try to read whatever is on there that I haven't been able to get to with this very small selection of half of the price. You know, there's always the chances that I am going to be like not have the proper not the proper choices, that I won't have read many. It's possible that all 6 books on the shortlist I won't have read. That would be a real bummer though, but I will have 2 months in that case to read them because of the new timeline for this prize. So did I actually end up choosing one of the Irish authors? Does it say that? Which one are the Irish authors? Probably not, right? It just says 4 Irish writers. And we saw like 1, maybe 2 premises that were definitely Irish, but I'm not entirely sure. So I don't know who the Irish writers are. My camera is overheating, so I won't look them up, but I'll have it on the screen for you guys, whether I chose any of the Irish authors on this list in my selection of 6, or whether I skillfully avoided all of them, but it will be interesting. Definitely one of them is going to make it onto the shortlist, right, statistically speaking. So yeah, I'll have to read an Irish novel again, and don't get me wrong, I have had one success case with Irish literature, but I don't know, there's just something about it that doesn't really work for me. And there was actually a book that some people were mentioning on their radars that did seem interesting, that I would have been okay with trying out if it had made it, but it didn't. And the book that didn't make it was like Mrs. K by Patrick K, I think, or something, or Patricia K or something like that. That was a book that sounded interesting. In Memoriam was also a book that sounded interesting, that I'm sad didn't make it on here as a sort of like incentive for me to pick it up sooner rather than later. And so that's Irish book. It wasn't necessarily a book that I was like super excited to make it on there, but I'm still like sad that there are 4 Irish books on here and not that one, because that one was one that actually did sound interesting for me. But so yeah, that is my first thoughts on the Bookworm Longlist. I'm definitely going to be watching some videos of people who actually know their stuff talking about this long list, seeing what they think about it. But so from a complete from the perspective of somebody who has read none of these authors' works and has read none of these books or any literary fiction probably this year, this is what my perspective is on this list, and hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you guys for the next one, and somewhere in the future there will be a reading vlog of me reading these 6 books. But so yeah, bye guys!